Hello, hello, good evening. We are back, and this night, week, whatever, I haven't even decided my schedule. We're going over another historical figure. So last week was the great Josephine Baker. Tonight, a controversial figure. Some would say he was probably one of the world's best businessmen. Gave a lot of people who didn't have any opportunities a opportunity to make their own money. While others would say he used people and abused them and was a piece of shit. We're going to go over the Mr. P.T. Barnum himself. I was going to add the Bailey. It's like up in my noggin, Barnum and Bailey. P.T. Barnum. He was actually Phineas Barnum. I forgot what I was doing here. Let's see. First of all, I have a huge amount of radiation. Let's go ahead and get rid of that. Okay. So Mr. P.T. was actually born Phineas Barnum in 1810 in Connecticut. And he was born into a family of jokers. And I would probably put them at like middle class. They were not struggle but struggle. His father owned a business. His grandfather owned a farm. They seem to be not rich, but steady, And in that way was able to help him in a lot of ways. He, in his own biography, talked about how he was, him and his grandfather were very close. He called himself his grandfather's pet. And that his grandfather was a huge practical joker, and even his whole family. So one time, his whole life, he's been told that he owns land. He's the richest boy in the town because he owns land already. And when he's 11, he's going to get to see this land and inherit it. And it's his own island. They call it Ivy Island. And they're telling this boy his whole life that he's getting land. Okay. So the time comes for him to see his plot of land. His mother's like, don't. Oh, excuse me. His mother's like, don't go in super excited. Because we don't want you to pass out for how great it is and stuff. So like whole family's in on this, that this dude is getting land. Okay. And then he gets there. His grandfather gives him do I even have any more explosive bait? Am I gonna have to make more? Oh, I have 2 more explosive baits. Okay. Let's see. Where's our biggest circle to go explosive something with our explosive bait? Where's our closest? This place is suggesting. Way over there? Bro. Down here. Jesus. Okay. We're gonna have to do some fast traveling because holy crap, I am not dealing. Oh, does he want me to throw the bait at the No, she's up there. Yeah. What's over here? I haven't really discovered anything over here. Yes, let's go to Grafton and walk on over. I have no idea how many caps I even have. I'm gonna keep pushing this. Oh, until eventually they're like, oh, wrong button again. Well, that's great. Holy crap, I got a lot. Okay. Kind of want to keep the spear. That seems pretty good. Oh, this is broken, so let's drop that. I think I have to keep this. I have to give it back to her. I'm not one for mines and grenades anyways. But they don't weigh that much, so... Oh, my guitar! My guitar broke! I really like that guy. Yes, goodbye, since you're broken. We have to keep the explosive grenade. Make explosive bait. I only need 2 more. Oh, because I gotta be level 30 to have that. Oh, okay. Oh. Guess I'll eat some stuff, maybe. Oops, let me do that. Bourbon. Instamash. I have dysentery now. Every time I eat, I get freaking dysentery. Every time. Melon juice. Okay. But now, we can go over here. Okay, so, where were we? So they take him to his little Ivy Island, and they're like, here you go, here's your plot of land. And it's literally like this little tiny dirt hill in the middle of a swamp. Like, he can only stand on it. This boy has spent his whole life planning of like houses and family he's gonna put there, just to find out that his whole fucking family in this whole town have just been cracking up laughing at him the whole time. And his grandfather pulled a lot of stunts. So at this point he was like, well, guess I can't depend on that at all, so I want to work. And he had been working like his whole life anyways. Let me go this way. Helping out around his grandpa's farm and stuff, and his grandpa would be like, okay, you have to do these chores, but if you do extra chores, I'll give you a little extra cash. And with that extra cash, little young Barnum would actually go and like buy molasses and sugar and stuff to make candy for the kids to buy. Will they count? Did I do it? I did!
Let's hear it for brutal efficiency!
Probably didn't need to go this far to hit that thing, but...
picking shrapnel out of their quarries. As cruel as the trappers were, the diehards...
Approach a death claw? Oh my god.
Their name fool you. We called them that because their stubborn asses refused to give up their dignity and couldn't bear to commit unprovoked violence. Pacifists. I don't know much about their special tactics. Did they have any? I don't know. Go find a death claw and make friends with it or something.
What? How am I supposed to make friends with a death claw? Where would I even find a freaking death claw? I guess here? Approaching a death claw, making friends. Alright. Sure, I'm gonna die. Let's see what happens. Anyways, so fast forward a little bit, getting around 15, Barnum is like, look, farm life ain't where it's at for me. I don't like it. He even went so far in like his biography to be like, I'm lazy, bro. I don't want to do this stuff. I want to work in stores. So his father's like, okay, and puts him in the store, and he loves it. Haggling, it's where it's at for him. He loves selling and getting better prices and just doing everything he can. Okay, well, you're not attacking me, so... Why is this my gun right now? Ugh. Oh shit, I used up all my... Crap. Oh, I have nothing in that either. I'm going to die! No. Why do I have no bullets? Okay. I favorited a hatchet. There we go. So I know if I push left, I run out of bullets, I can beat things with a hatchet. Okay, so he starts working in the store and he's doing great. I mean, it's where he's at. It's where he's at home. But at this time, his grandfather is like, hey, this guy wants to do a job with you. Oh wait, no. rewind that. This actually happens when he's 11. Could you imagine this? So a guy meets up with his grandfather and is like, hey, your boy over there looks pretty strong. So, I want to take him with me. What? Who just hit me? Make friends. He doesn't.
Whoa! Hey, hold on! I didn't think you'd actually do it. We're talking about a deathclaw here for crying out loud. Well, you're there now. Either kill it or don't. I don't care, as long as I don't need to find a new assistant.
Well, cool. Don't really know where I would need to go next, so... should I go back to hers? This... This spawn here, so I don't have to spend any more money until I figure out where she wants me to go next. Anyways, so the guy's like, hey...
I don't blame you for turning tail and running like a coward.
Thanks.
Hey, you're alive, and that means you can finish helping me out, so good for you. It's probably a good time to teach you that not everyone can be your friend out there. That's the
You
real
from a
takeaway
super
from the
mutant.
diehards. Moving on, the Blackwater Bandits were known for being sneaky thieves. Let me tell you, they once hit a Brotherhood of Steel camp. Insane, right? They snuck right past the guards and stole guns, ammo, mini nukes, you name it.
Pretty
Right
insane.
out from under the poor bastards while the rest of them slept. Next thing you know, the knights moved on out with their tails between their legs, and we had a new arsenal. Well, we still have heavily armed super mutants. Go steal from them, sneak around. Maybe you won't have to fight them all. But really, all I care about is their gun stash. Might be a good haul, might not. There's only one way to find out.
Oh my god. This is gonna go terrible. Alright, so... Anyway, so the guy's like, hey, let me take this kid to New York with me for like a week. And his whole family's like, yeah, cool. Who would do that? Just... no way of contacting them ever again. This is why children disappeared so much back then. Anyways, luckily his trip was safe. But he did... this is where he got his taste for haggling. Because his grandfather gave him $1. And once he got to New York City, he was like, I'm gonna buy guns and candy. And then he started trying to haggle with the woman who owned the store. And by the end of it, he ended up with like nothing. And actually giving her some clothes that his mother gave him. Thinking he was getting the upper hand, and then ended up with like beatings and stuff. But he was still happy because he was considered the cool kid for even getting to go to New York. So anyways, this is what thrilled him and was like, haggling is where it's at. I love this. So that's when he joins his father's marketplace, and things are going great there. He's killing it. Unfortunately, around this time, his father dies, and leaving his mom with 5 kids, the youngest one 7. So PT has to then go and PT then goes and works for another market because they give him free lodging so he can give his mom a little space. And he oops. Who are they shooting at? Who was that? Wait for him to go away. Before I get in this house. So he still sends his mom money, and he goes and visits every Sunday, and his mom even kept the bar that his dad had owned. So this is where he ends up meeting his future wife, Cherry. And but he only sees her this one night, and then like he never really sees her in town again for quite a few years. Go patrol somewhere. How many super mutants are there? So he ends up getting another job offer. What is it? There you go. It's something like he gets a job offer for New York, and he's like, okay, but before I go, I gotta go find this chick Cherry because she's where it's fucking at. And he asks her to marry him. They marry each other within like a month, and they head off to New York together, where he gets to run another store. This is where it's funny for him. He knew he wasn't good at waking up early, so he actually would tie a string to his toe, and he paid some kid like 2 shillings a day to come by early in the morning and tug the to tug on the string on his toe to wake him up in the morning. So he's killing it in New York. I mean, for a couple years. I mean, he's top salesman. He's really getting in there, just going to different, I'll give you this for this fish to sell it. I mean, he's killing it like he always has as a kid. And but he's realizing that while he's at the top of his game, there's a ceiling to this game, and he doesn't like that. He doesn't like the idea of not being able to have like limitless opportunities. Oh, somebody sees me. I don't see them. So he's very much like, I don't want to be a part of this game anymore. I know it's steady for me and my family, but no thanks. So he ends up doing, this is where it gets shady. Oh no, not yet. Okay. So he decides he doesn't love the whole market thing, right? He then decides, okay, I'm gonna start my own kind of store place that I could do like lotteries or stuff like that. And his grandpa was like, okay, you come back home, I'll let you live in my carriage house rent free, and we'll figure out how to start your business. So PT, with only like $100 to his name, moves his family to live in this carriage house, and he turns the downstairs of the carriage house into like a store to sell like candies and apples and stuff, but also to run a lottery. So, and he's really nervous. This is like his own business. But he actually got, I won't say lucky, but the first day opening, he actually had to call in a high school buddy. He had to call in a high school buddy to help him out because he was so busy. And every day was like that for him. So fucking busy. And he was able to go from like running small lotteries to huge lotteries. And he was killing it. He was really making some good money. Well, around this time, not just this time, anytime really, so lotteries have always kind of been a thing. Starting schools and stuff, working on roads. Governments have always kind of run lotteries to help get money. Well, as long as there's been governments to say, hey, let's run a lottery, there's been religious people to go, but God says no gambling, you know? So there was a group of people called the Calvinists, and they're pretty much like, the only thing we need to be doing on Sundays is fucking church. So anything, gambling, working, they were all about making it as illegal as possible to be anywhere but fucking church on Sundays, and probably any other fucking day. Well, PT was like, hold up. Don't be coming for my income. I think not, sir. So he tried to write the paper to talk smack and talk about how like separation of church and state, you can't be making these laws. But the Calvinists ran the paper, and they were like, ha, fuck you and your dumbass opinion. We're not fucking printing that shit. He was like, oh, you won't print my shit? Well, guess who owns the paper now? And he started his own fucking paper. I mean, I'll give it to this guy. He was not fucking giving up. When he decided he wanted something, he fucking wanted it. So he started his own fucking paper, and it became super popular. It ended up in every state at that time, you know? And, but he did get in some trouble because he would just kind of write whatever he wanted. I mean, just talking straight shit about the Calvinists and their beliefs and all types of stuff. So he did end up in jail for 60 days, but he says it was super comfortable. Like, it wasn't that hard of a stint. He was even... Oh, shit, there's a super mutant dog. I didn't even see that guy. That it wasn't, like, a hard stint because of that. I have no idea how I'm gonna get... This guy doesn't... He's not even marching back and forth. Where are his movements? What is that? Is that scorched? Just throw a scorched at them. Like, they're nice and distracted. Oh, okay, so there's one over there. And one there. And there's Super Mutant Hound running around. And we don't even know what's inside this place. I'm terrible at sneaking. This is gonna go bad. Is there even a door I can get in behind him? I'm been staking him out, and I don't even know if I can enter this place where he's standing. Okay, so, he ends up in jail for 60 days for kind of talking too much smack and making shit up, and then, but his paper's still just popular, but unfortunately for him, the Calvinists do win. They win the election, and they pass their laws, and lottery becomes illegal in Connecticut. So he was like, well, fine. Fuck you, Connecticut. I'm off back off to New York. And he heads off to New York, where he becomes super duper broke. This guy alive? Is he on a bed of nails? Weak feral ghoul. I'm gonna take a picture of this. Can I take a picture in this? I have no bullets. I'm gonna shotgun these. Oh, shit. Let me start shooting things. So he goes to New York, and this is where he becomes almost the brokest he's ever been in life, because he's like jumping around from job to job. He can't really find anything. And then this is where we find a really fucked up story. One of his first real fucked up stories. And that's the story of his first showpiece, where he meets a man who had been showing a slave woman, an elderly slave woman, saying, and he had paperwork and stuff saying that she was the nursemaid of George Washington. She's the oldest woman on earth at like 160 years old, something like that. And he immediately sees this as an opportunity, like, oh, I can tour with her and I can make this kind of money showing her off. And he was amazing at getting word out, and you know, damn it, now the word is like, it's not propaganda, but like publicizing himself, the publicity he was amazing at. So he's like, I got this. So he buys the woman, which is cringy. But keeps the act, pretty much. The act she'd already been doing, he keeps that act. He adds a couple more years on and stuff. And they tour around, and they start making like $1,500 a week. Now, because this was his first act, this is where you get really muddy, because some people will use this as saying, look, he bought a fucking slave, he kept slaves, he tortured this woman, he exploited her, and all this other stuff. But we do know that later down the road, as he gets more acts, he pays them, and quite well. They become very lucrative themselves. So it kind of goes like, did he also pay her too? And she already had this story. So did she enjoy and make up the story? Did she look around herself and go, well, if I gotta be a fucking slave, at least I'm just doing a show instead of, like, you know, being tortured? Where I do kind of call, like, ugh, I think I'm gonna put him in the box of jerk here, is he never freed her. She died a slave, his slave. So I feel like even if he was, because he does fall under abolitionist, that he did fight for against slavery and stuff, but the fact that he never freed her, I feel like, that's a giant, like, even if he was treating her amazingly and even paid her, which awesome, why wouldn't you have freed her? But unfortunately, there's not much else. At least I can't find anything that legitimately tells you even her story. She was elderly, so when she was, there's the fucking door. Okay, I gotta get past this one. Oh, and that one. Shit. Okay. So I'm putting him a piece of shit on this one, because he even did the whole thing of, once she did die, he made it a big point to be like, oh, we're gonna do an autopsy and prove to you that she... Of course he walked back.
Wish a buckethead would show up. I'd rip it
Correct.
clean off.
Detective. And wrong door. And I'm just gonna jump down here. Crap. Just like you. And I'm gonna go. Ugh, I died.
Bet you could got some real damage.
Is that a
with
person?
that.
Where did they come from?
Whatever you picked up, keep it. You've earned it.
Oh,
Okay,
thanks.
this one's a little disgusting, but it's ruthless, so I like it. Ugh, my stomach turns just thinking about this.
Anyway, so
And I haven't been hungry
he's
in a
showing
while,
her, she ends
so
up dying,
who knows how desperate I'll be
and he
when
makes
I
a
am
big
and
deal
there's no
about it,
one.
about how this man was truly a man of, like,
Call
no...
them that instead of what they really were. Cannibals.
I'm sorry, now I'm
I'm
listening.
not gonna make you eat anyone, but let's go through the exercise anyway. I saw a roaming pack of feral ghouls I want you to hunt down. They're always good for target practice anyway. I'm not saying the gourmands had the right idea. Ugh. But no one can claim they went hungry eating human or ex-human flesh.
So he...
Just use a toothpick or something before you come back to visit. I don't want to catch a whiff of rotting ghoul flesh on your breath.
Kill a feral ghoul. Okay. So he eventually finds another little boy to showcase. And this little boy, oh wait, no, I hadn't finished her story. So he even exploits her in her death and causes, like, autopsies and stuff. And once that all dies down, which I also find, like, let the woman fucking rest in peace. Like, holy shit. So once that all dies down, he then he would join his first circus, and it wasn't his circus. He kind of, like, handled money and ticket sales, and he did a little bit of showing himself. The guy who owned it was also like a self-made man, you know, and he was a huge jokester like his grandpa, so PT did feel close to him, but he also couldn't help but be like, what the fuck? This guy pulled the most fucked up prank on him. So he decided that he wanted to wear like a black suit one night. And I guess, oh my god, I guess this guy thought it would be hilarious to tell people that, oh, that guy over there is actually a... What? Let's just drop this one. A murderer who had just recently gotten off. And he convinces everybody that that's who he is. So much so this crowd gets so riled up that they start attacking PT. And they're like going to fucking lynch him. They're gonna lynch this dude. Like... So he ends up like at the very, like he's literally like stringing up, beating the shit out of him. He's like, I was just kidding, guys, I was just kidding. And it's like, he almost died. He almost fucking died. So he pretty quickly was like, I'm gonna go. This was fun, thanks. So he ends up back in New York, and it was another time of finding it hard to work, and he ended up touring again. I'm sorry. Oh, okay. My handwriting is crap, and I'm getting the timeline messed up. Okay. He joined the circus, right? Almost got him killed, like literally almost hung. Okay. Then 1838, PT leaves and goes back to New York. In 39, he finds a small... Okay. This is where... He found a man who could do like some tricks and stuff. So he was thinking again, I'll start my own circus, but he wanted to start like a standstill business, not a touring business. But that standstill saloon type thing he was thinking of kind of failed. So he ended up being like, well, okay, I guess we're just going to go on tour. And he was doing good with this guy until he gets to Philadelphia and he sees that, oh, I'm apparently already here. Like, this dude had his another circus and he was pretending to be PT. So then PT goes to his circus and writes a scathing review of him, of like watching it, and a scathing review, and says how another circus is so much better and this is that circus. And so this guy ends up calling the cops on him and gets him arrested. He ends up doing the same thing. It ends up being this huge thing where they both end up losing a bunch of fucking money because they end up missing show times and stuff. And PT's like, I'm out. Just the circuit business, too fucking cutthroat. I'm fucking out. I don't even know. This is not what I signed up for. So that's when he decides he's officially out of fucking that. But he goes back to New York and he sees an opportunity for an Odyssey museum that was gonna be shutting down, and he wants to buy it. So he ends up I'm gonna have to get rid of something here. Yes, the spear. I don't know what I'm doing with the spear. He ends up wanting, and they're like, okay, we can sell this our Odyssey museum to you, sure. But then another company kind of swoops in. They're like, hey, he needs to do a payment plan. I can pay you cash right here, right now. So let's just do it that way. And they're like, done. Well, PT did not like this. He was like, no. So he starts writing in his paper how this new company is just pieces of crap. They're thieves. They're this. They're that. They're horrible. and he's just destroying their reputation. So this company is like, look, if you stop writing about us or even write something good, we'll hire you and we'll pay you like $30 a week. How about that? And he's like, okay, I'll stop. He calls the city and he's like, or the bank, and he's like, look, if they miss even one payment, I got this money. Can this place be mine? And the bank is like, yeah, bet. I don't know how this is legal, but apparently this is what happened. And it did. A couple months later, the company ends up missing a month, and PT is right there with his check, and he buys it from under them, which is pretty shady shit. I mean, I know none of us want to lose, but I mean, he pretty much destroyed these people's business, then took their money to go work for them while plotting on them the whole time to get what he wanted. So it's kind of like, wow, I mean, industrious again, I guess, and he's determined, but he has no qualms about just fucking your shit up if you come for him and take what he wants. There's no qualms about it. Oh, that's a red stack. I don't want that. So he gets his Odyssey Museum, and one of the things he's rumored to have done, what's hitting me? To get people to come in is,
Now, the gourmands would go ahead and eat that. Ugh. I can't make you do it, but you're not gonna chicken out on me, are you? Either way, it's time to report back.
Do I really have to eat him? I don't want to eat him. We're just gonna go back to Rose. Okay. So he, plasters things all over town to come to his Odyssey Museum. It's rumored that he hired a bunch of terrible musicians to stand like outside, and in his mind was that people will hate the music so much they'll kind of be like, I want to go inside somewhere to stop this music. And apparently it worked. I mean, he started killing it almost immediately. And one of his first acts that he got to put into the Curiosity Museum was a child. And he was a small person, and
Well, you've learned a bunch of stuff about raider tactics, and I've got to say, they all seemed ridiculous. Really entertaining to watch from here. Were they effective? I guess so.
No.
You survived, didn't you? We can talk about your reward when you get here.
I technically
Good
didn't
job.
survive.
You?
I died multiple times doing this. Anyways, so he goes to this boy's family and is like, I will pay you guys.
Overseer's log, top of the world. There's someone in control of this old ski resort, and if I ever find her, I'm gonna wash her mouth out with the first thing vaguely resembling soap I can get my hands on. Selfish. That's the word. Maybe that's why she survived. But the only way she'll tell me what she knows is if I help her first. All the good people I've learned about who've died, and it's the sociopath who still gets to live.
So he goes to this boy's family. He's like, I'll pay you $3 a week. I'll take your son, and we'll go do this. So he ended up teaching this boy how to like sing and dance, and called him Tiny Tim, and they toured the world together, like him and the world's smallest boy to man. But his family, I mean, they even got to go over Europe. he became very fucking wealthy, Tiny Tim. Super wealthy. So wealthy, in fact, that later down the road when PT kind of gambled everything and lost it all, he was there for him to help him bail him out. He ended up getting married and stuff. So he definitely has one of the stories where it is like, should children be exploited? Absolutely fucking not. Especially not disabled children or differently abled people. But when you're talking about the 1800s, to these people who at best were just a burden on their family, but their family didn't necessarily mind, and at worst were put out on the street, ridiculed, tortured. I mean, no one cared about these people, and they were constantly are just put into like mental asylums and stuff. PT did at least pay his people very well, and he gave them opportunities that did not exist in this time period in any other profession. So you kind of do have to give a little bit of respect, because he definitely could have been just like, get your ass up on that stage and shut your fucking mouth. But he doesn't appear to have done that. He does appear to have like genuinely befriended these people and paid them for their services and did create a family for them. Even like another person that he was, Rosalind and David's ski trip. Another person that he was kind of famous, like, that people will bring up this story and be like, see what a piece of shit PT was the Pinhead guy, and he was another African American. He was not a slave. He was a son of slaves, though, because he came around after the Civil War. But he had hydrocephaly, where the head just doesn't grow. So, but he wasn't mentally disabled. He just was physically. So they would dress him up in like put extra fur on his body and called him the missing link and what is that, and that his people were from Africa and he was trapped. Like a whole story. He'd like bang on the bars and screech and scream. And this is awful, right? But this man ended up, even the way he died was he did not want to miss his show, so he wouldn't go to the doctor. He ended up dying of like pneumonia or something like that. But he was very dedicated to his show and the people around him. So I feel like in that prospect of like, clearly this man was happy, though what he was doing was pretty shitty, especially calling him an it and what's it and a missing link and making him extra furry. It's like these it's definitely cringeworthy for sure. So with all these, he gets the bearded lady, he gets the conjoined twins, he gets historical artifacts, all types of artifacts. He even almost got Shakespeare's house, but when the British realized who was trying to buy the house, they all kind of rallied. Even Charles Dickinson rallied and like did events and stuff so that they could buy it from like under him, and so he didn't end up getting Shakespeare's house, which I think is good. But yeah, he had all these people. He found another small man, and he did circus for many a year. He ended up trying, and this technically wasn't circus. This was his oddities museum, and it didn't move around. With this, he made millions. His people made millions of today's money. They technically weren't making millions, but what the difference? He was able to build a huge fucking mansion. They're touring Europe, they're touring America, but he does end up in a lot of fires. So before the fires, though, he ends up gambling everything. So he finds this is where the premise of the showman, the greatest showman, is kind of with his life. So he finds this amazing opera singer. She's very famous in Europe, unknown in America. And he's like, I don't have to hoodwink anybody. I can just use your voice, your everything, and we're going to make a lot of money together. And she was like, And he was like, but also charity, because she was really into charity. She's like, all right, fine. You pay me, like, it was like $15,000 or something like that. And she would only work with a certain baritone, and she'd only work with a certain orchestra pianist. And he'd have to pay to take them and pay them for their shows and everything. And I mean, it was another, like, in the millions of today's money. Like, So he's like, yes. And she's like, okay, yes. And then she's like, but I want it up front. And he was like, oh, okay, yeah. So he goes to the bank. The bank's like, no. So then he's like, okay. So he goes to like other investors, and he ends up putting all of his properties on the line for this. So his museum, his home. He ends up even having to borrow more money from other people, even having, he goes to like Christian people, and he's like, she could be great for this world, look how holy and awesome she is. And they're like, okay. So they give him some money. He ends up getting all the money, pretty much setting himself up that if this fails, he loses everything, and then he's also in debt. Like, so this is crucial that this works. So he ends up starting her campaign pretty much almost immediately, putting her in papers, already talking about her. He even sets up to have her do a farewell concert in London, and then having a man who loves her write about it and send those papers. So by the time she even got to America, Americans were already like, oh my god, oh, I can't wait to see you. And luckily this gamble really worked out for him, worked out for her too. They both made buku money off this. It was awesome for them. He then goes back to just his museum, finding different people to have come in or different attractions. He did end up so one guy decided, because you know the Bible talks about giants, and he was like, he's an atheist. He was like, but if people fucking believe in giants, I'm gonna give them some giants. So he creates like this stone figure, huge, okay? And then he buries it for a whole year, buries it, right? Because he wants it to look like it's been underground for a while. Him and his cousin dig it up, and their story is that they were digging for a well, and they found this huge giant. And scientists are already like, no, you fucking did. And then why would you even dig here for a well? This isn't even bones. This is what. So, but other people are like, I will pay you to show that around. And another circus bought it from them. Well, PT was like, well, I'll just make my fucking own. So he made his own giant. And he was like, this is the real giant. They're hustling a fake one. And they're like, you can't, you're just taking our shit. And so the court system, and they take him to court, right? And the court's like, you have to prove your giant's real. And the guys who recently found the giant end up having to be like, well, no, it's not. I made it and I buried it. And so PT got off because pretty much the court was like, he can't infringe or copy something that's fake. And since yours is fake and his is fake, it's just fakeness. So you're both out. Goodbye. So that worked out for him. But he'd had like the monkey with the fishtail, all that stuff. He was really, he didn't mind the lie, to get people in. He would also, he would end up losing his house to a fire. Okay. Then his museum would go down in a fire. He wouldn't even get as much back from insurance as what the amount of things he lost was worth. But he would get enough to at least open a new museum. Okay, it was doing fine. It was being successful just like his old one was, and that fucking burned down to the ground. So then he was like, okay. And now in his 60s, he now starts his own circus and takes his act on the road. And he gets like an elephant and stuff. And he starts competing with other circuses. A couple of years later, he did, which I kind of want to find out. Let me look. So his wife ends up dying around this time, which is horrible, which is really sad because he loved her a lot. He even said in his book how, while he doesn't suggest people marry young, he was very blessed to find he couldn't have, whether he waited 20 more years, he would have never found another woman so perfectly suited to his disposition. That she was an amazing mother and best friend, and I was just like, oh, that's so sweet. But soon after his best friend dies, he's like, well, I guess I'll marry a 20-year-old. And he ends up marrying a woman named Nancy Fish, which made me go, oh, are we related? Is PT on my family tree with Albert Fish? anyways, so he marries Nancy's fish. I don't think they have any kids together. He's traveling around the circus at this time. Nothing super exciting happens. He stays pretty lucrative. He stays working. He ends up at this time, a little couple years down, he runs into Bailey, pretty much. And it's another circus that is doing just as well as his is, if not a little bit better. So he's like, look, instead of us competing, let's just combine it. I'm an old man, let's just combine it. And this is where you get your famous Barnum and Bailey's circus, which is awesome. So, but they are still competing with other ones, as we know, Ringling Brothers, which was actually founded by like 5 brothers. And I have actually a lot of Nancy fishes on my family tree. Holy shit. Huh. Let's see. Anyways. So he ends up just kind of working. One thing I did not know. So even as he gets older, Ringling Brothers is doing so great. Theirs is doing okay, so while they compete, and then they end up even becoming one big company, but staying separate, keeping their name separate, but they were no longer competing. So then he even ends up dying while working. Like, the man just kept working his entire life, and ended up like checking some papers and then going to his room and fucking dying. And that's how he died, which I actually find really fucking sad. And his circus stuck around for a long ass time. I mean, we're talking 1800s, and now, what did it finally close down, like 2017 or something like that? So it was a long run. It was a long run. And that's pretty much the end of our story. That's pretty much what he did. I will say my opinion of him is he could have done better. He could have fucking done better, but I mean, come on. Fucking 1800s. It was a shitty time. It was a real shit time. When you're talking, I'd say when you're talking strictly as businessman and you listen to his business advice, he's definitely someone I'd listen to. He's definitely someone I would research if I was really like, I want to start a business. Here are some successful people that I really want to look into and like follow what they did. I'd say he's someone you want to do that with. He definitely knew what the fuck he was doing all the way. He had a passion for it. But was he a shitty person? Yeah, I think he pretty shitty. I think he wasn't the shittiest person alive. I don't think he was maliciously evil. But he could have done better. There are definitely times he could have done better, you know, not completely sabotaged other people's businesses or, you know, bought slaves. But he is what he is, man. So let me know. Well, how do you feel about PT? Do you know any fun facts about Mr. P.T. Barnum? And let me know if you want to know about any other historical figures. I think next time I'm going to go back to true crime. Or I keep talking about a horror story. I just haven't heard one that I think would give us enough meat. So then I was like, I probably need multiple to do those. I just got to find one that really grabs me, you know? Anyways, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed my time in the wasteland and summarizing PT's life for you. Catch you on the flip side.